Thank you very much. Thank you. I am glad to be here, and I'm grateful to Oren, I think he's at the organizing committee, for inviting me. And thank you for your time. I hope it will be worth that. So I take how many minutes do I have? 15 or
40. 40.
40?
Yeah, no, 1-4.
1-4. Okay. Okay, thank you. So I should begin with what I have done during this survey. So as you see the title, I tried to reach the origin of the notion of gerontology in Islamic thought, with reference to parenthood and personhood. And then, when I saw there, in a while I will show some more quick, a few more slides. And then Islamic law makes references to Judaic law in several points. So this is one of them. And continuity from Semitic tradition. And in a while, then it seems from these color things that you made, and the creation of human being, the main cause being God, and the secondary cause being the parents. And thus God commands that one worship God first, and then secondarily care for parents. But what I will try to see, whether is this a legal or a moral obligation. And it goes further, of course, and about the ownership, the theory of ownership as well. And God created the universe, and God owns the universe. And then, is there a share for parents to own children? And if so, and then is there a legal consequences that comes from there? And then the idea of the law of qisas, the retaliation, that also originates from Judaic to Islam, is telling that in case a father is the convicted person for criminal to kill his son, and then the doubt emanating from ownership will not will let this father waived from the law of qisas in the terms of life to life. So the fifth command here from Judaic, so honor your father and your mother. And what happens then? The Exodus there, 20:12, honor your father and mother so that your days may be long, so your life is prolonged. And when you go to Islamic notion, is parallel to that, this time from Hadith of Musnad of Ibn Hanbal. And if you want your lifespan prolonged and livelihood increased, then you shall do good to your parents. Okay, thus far, this is a reward rather than positive rulings. So if you do, it's good. And then, as you see the Quran, chapter 2, 8, verse 83, is already making reference to Judaic law. And then you should worship God, and then you should do good to your parents. And also, in the chapter of Al-Isra or Israel, children of Israel in some interpretations. Also follows up, but with some further content here. So worship God and do good to your parents. And this is now the red al-kibar. So if these parents reaches old age while with you, and then the following read in the verse 24, the second line, Kama Rabbayani Saghira. So you pray that God mercy upon your parents, because is the same way that parents had mercy on you when you were young, when you were a child. So in this case, there is like an indication of reciprocity or a return of favor. But does this make a legal or a moral obligation? We have to follow a little bit more. And again, in the following Quranic verses, like verse Luqman, chapter of Luqman 31, verse 14, and it's telling particularly about mother, that mother during pregnancy, during breastfeeding and childcare timing, and is like mother has given you more efforts, and then you should prioritize mother to father while you care. The only in Islamic notion that you may not follow your mother's father's order, it's when they encourage you to attribute partnership to God. But even in such case, regardless, if your mother and father themselves are even polytheists, you are still supposed to be at their care in this world, separating between faith and care in this situation. So Fakhruddin al-Razi is this 1210 is an error there. So who died in 1210. That he said as-sabab al-haqiqi and as-sabab al-zahiri. So now parents are like being a sort of pseudo-creator, so to say. I don't know, because to have whether it's good in English to say so. But the real cause is God, and the primary cause is God. The secondary cause is parents, as I've just mentioned from al-Razi. And so this is now a one direction, it causing one direction ownership, like your son exists because of you, but you do not owe your existence to your son or daughter. So in this case, so the return of favor is now becoming one direction according to this. And this makes nafsa bin nafsi, like this life to life, not working in two directions because of the doubt of ownership. It works in a single direction. And ubuwa, as I just mentioned without the word, so it is doubt of the doubt of that the father owns or the mother owns child. So I will mention now Abu Ala al-Ma'arri, like a pessimist philosopher and a poet from northwest Syria in 11th century. Al-Ma'arri has a question of why should I owe to my parents? In his say, when he was asked, one day, like everyone, if you will die, and what should we write on your tomb, on this stone? And that is what he suggested. هذا ما جناه أبي علي وما جنيت على أحد. So the people come to see that Ma'arri says this is the felony that my father committed against me, but thankfully I have not committed and against others. So why? So the pessimist philosophy there is coming into universe of alam al-kawn wal-fasad is a tragedy. So parents were only after their own joy, and therefore causing the child to come into this existence, and take place in the universe of catastrophic calamities. So is there any kind or what kind of favor do I owe to my parents? This is, as also you see the last line there from Ellen Mitchell, the pessimist philosophy takes the idea that misery is the law of being. So thus, but the source of obligation, Al-Ma'arri was obviously negative and okay, I don't think his idea is worth taking, but nevertheless his question was legally correct, because law would ask where this obligation comes from, would require that an obligation arise out of a legitimate source. So this source, is it a contract, and it is law, or is it moral, and that we owe what we owe to others? So وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُ إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. Is this a contract, command of God? And then, of course, there is like a pseudo contract. I mean, like a symbolic contract in a chapter of Al-A'raf, chapter 7, 172 verse, that God, before the first human was created, God asked the human essence, am I not your Lord? And this human essence said, yes. It's like if this is a contract, then God's command becomes a law. And otherwise, regardless if this contract is not there, then the moral obligation remains, because in the chapter of Al-Isra, which a few moments ago we have seen there on the screen, and then God should mercy upon parents is because parents mercied upon the child when at the time. So now then it is a return of favor. So is the matter legal or moral again? So this, the idea that I personally, during this survey, I have hoped that I would reach some sophisticated philosophical arguments, but I reached the material mostly about Bir al-Walidain. 2 minutes? Okay. Bir al-Walidain, like doing good to parents and the codes of behavior, and this is, but nevertheless, this is still taking us to what are the source of law. So, for example, a parent who expect their children to look after them now is taking the point that legitimate expectation causing a law or serving as source of law, or is it a source of moral obligation? So I'm still going after these questions. So there is a common, just to say a couple of more words, a common reason why one deserves, whether morally or legally, to receive care. So it is the lack of capacity. So capacity of legal capacity, receptive legal personhood, or active personhood in terms of capacity. So the child naturally starts upon the fitra, upon the creation, as a receptive capacity until the child is then an adult. But the parents are already adults, but later we lose the capacity that once they have attained it when they are elderly. And so this is what brings the child and the parents to unite in one point, and this is what grounds the normativity of the care, whether from child to parents or whether from parents to child. And just positive ruling, maybe 1 minute, I finish. And within Islamic law, It's more ready, like you find in the Quran, I'm sure in your Judaic sources too, that there are details about how you raise a child. Like you have to breastfeed for mother 2 years, and for father you have to pay for the expenses of education or this and that. But the same detailed positive ruling would not appear for how one would look after parents. So thus this tells that looking after elderly parents is apparently, comparatively at least, more deontic than becoming a legal obligation. It's rather moral. But comparatively, parents looking after child, it's predominantly legal, of course, with the moral context as well added. So I think I have used time. Thank you very much for your listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tasman.
Yeah, thank you.